Have you ever had that moment when you meet someone for the first time and you have no idea at that time just how much of an impact they're going to end up having in your life? You know, everyone we meet, they're going to have an impact one way or the other, some negatively and others in a very positive way. I'm wondering if you've met that person that just seems to make a difference, not only in your life, but manages to make the lives of everyone around them that much better. Well, if that's so, and if you've met someone like that, then you're going to really enjoy today's episode of the Audacious Faith Podcast. If there's one thing that I've learned over the course of my life about prayer, it's that I believe God always hears, and I also believe that he always answers. However, he doesn't answer the way often that we think he's going to, and he has his own timing and his own ways. For years, I had some big dreams that he put in my heart, things that I really wanted to see happen, and here was the problem. I never could quite figure out how to get from point A to point B. It became apparent over the course of time that there were missing elements in the dreams that he had put in my head, that there was actually going to have to be other people involved that were able and willing and that had the gifts and talents that he had given them to be able to do some of the things that I didn't know how to do. I could see the big picture, but I couldn't get there on my own. And then all of a sudden it came time where I met the guy sitting to my right. A guy who was actually at a company convention that I was attending. He was there with his girlfriend who had been working with me for probably the past 2 to 3 years previous to that. I didn't really know much about him, didn't really strike me with that big of an impression at first. Little did I know the change that and the impact that he would have not only in our business team, but also in the life of our church, in the life of the ministry, and that he was going to be an answer to so many of the prayers that I had been praying for a long time. God knew what he was doing. And so if you're not familiar with him, this is Jay Occupon, also known professionally as DJ Jus Jay. And everything you're seeing behind us, the set, the backdrop, the lighting, putting this podcast together each week, doing things like the sound and the online services and everything we do at the church. You think those things just happen? He's doing the overwhelming, 90% of it. And so definitely want you to have the opportunity to meet him today. So, Jay, thank you so much for...
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This is an honor. So.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So let's get to know you a little bit more so people can know. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing, background, growing up, how you became a person of faith.
Well, I grew up, born and raised on the island of Kauai, which is in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised a handful of people don't know where Hawaii is. If you look at the Pacific Ocean, we're in the middle. So it ain't hard to find, but it's very small. Okay. But grew up, I thought I was the only child because I had siblings in the Philippines. My parents came over here, so I always confused myself because sometimes a lot of my classmates, they're like second generation because their parents were born in Hawaii. So I was the firstborn in Hawaii, so that makes me that would be considered first generation. Right?
I think so. Yeah.
First generation of immigrant parents from Philippines, and I guess it's more influential. Like classmates kind of brought me into the world of church because the Christian side, I grew up Catholic. Most Filipinos are Catholic, so. Okay. It would be around, I'd say, first, second, third grade where I was introduced to the, Christian side of faith. But right now I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, artist, creator of things, right. Producer of this podcast. Again, it's an honor to be here. So that's. So a little story of me.
You're definitely busy, I guess we could say that, right? So you have a love for music, and you also seem to have a love for figuring things out. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the backdrop behind us for the longest time was just a white wall, and we couldn't figure out how to do it, how to get all the lightings, whatever. And I would look at things online trying to figure out, what did this church do and how in the world did they do that? And never being able to just kind of, then you come along, take up the challenge and look up all these things, figure out how to get it. You seem to have a passion for all of this kind of stuff. So how did that come about? Was it early on or is it more recent?
It was, could be a combination of me as a kid, I wanted to be like a DJ. At these parties, graduation parties, birthday parties, in Hawaii, it's very big that we celebrate these things, and they hire DJs. And one thing that kind of attracted me was seeing these like lights, the colorful lights you see at events or anything. That kind of fascinated me. I was the kid that went up to the light and just stared at it. So that kind of been a little influential with creating these sets and whatnot. And as I got older, I was more fascinated by how stages look or how things look in big arenas or big concert halls and all that. Like my island, we don't really have much of that stuff, but just seeing it on like TV and all that kind of influenced that inspiration, I guess.
Well, and so, and he says that he likes to look at the lights. He used to like to do that. He still likes to do that, just so you know. He'll sit here in the sanctuary and he'll play with every setting and see how it moves around, and he'll just sit there and stare at it. And you try to talk to him during that time, and he won't even hear you.
Sorry.
Half the time.
In advance.
I mean, that's quite often how it happens. So you left Hawaii. There's family back there. Your church that you were involved with is back there. Everything was going on there. And then you took the step to kind of leave that all behind. You got involved in Team Tenacity, which is a financial firm, made a big impact there, continued to do so, and then also started getting involved with church here, being just the drummer at first, and then it just like evolved into more and more stuff. Was it tough to leave home and take that step of faith? I mean, how easy was that, or difficult?
Definitely not easy, because growing up, like as I mentioned earlier, it's a small island. I'd say I don't think we're even up to 100,000 population yet, because I know here in LA we got 9 million,
something like that.
So coming from knowing everybody in your hometown to coming here and not knowing anybody, it's scary. But I think the thing with that, it's a leap of faith.
Right.
It's that unknowing side of what's going to happen, or just how could you explain the question of what's going to happen, or it's definitely it definitely wasn't easy. But from the transition to like being here at the church and my church back home, I was also a drummer back in my church. My church in Kauai called Kuloa Missionary Church. So I almost kind of did the same stuff that I'm doing here now.
Right.
Which is pretty awesome.
So you kind of got to take what was already there as a foundation. I don't believe, we've said this in other podcasts as well, I don't believe that God wastes things. No. So he took the experience that you already had and then transitioned you into a new place, kept that experience, built upon it, and now continues to add other things to it. So obviously, I'm sure, difficult. There's probably people out there right now that maybe God is kind of leading you to take some massive step of faith. It's hard to leave your familiar surroundings. It's hard to leave family sometimes. I mean, I know you're still in contact.
Yes.
But it's a difficult step. But when you take that step, would you agree that it's opened up new things that maybe wouldn't have happened? Yeah, so that's pretty incredible. And now he's mentioning the population. You said about 100,000.
Probably not even.
Okay, so here we are right now in the city of El Monte, which, by the way, is probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 square miles around at the most, and it has about 100,000 people in it. So we're talking about the same population just in this very little area, not to mention the other areas that you go to. So pretty cool stuff. So then you end up with Team Tenacity, and one would think, it's interesting how this works out, because one would think that a lot of the talents and the passions that you had, music, DJing, all those kind of things, would have nothing to do with a firm that helped people financially, okay? But instead, God kind of used you to be a game changer, because there was an atmosphere in the office that many offices would want to have. It was, kind of dull, play a little music in the background. Suddenly, he comes in with DJ skills to do this, and now it's a really happening place.
Yeah.
You know, music hitting at the right point, the right kind of music hitting at the right point. You've been able to do that in school functions here, church functions here, where suddenly, I mean, the whole evening and the whole atmosphere of how everything flows is just changed by your ability to be able to do that, kind of make it a great event with very limited resources. I mean, we're not talking, you know, humongous soundboards and all kinds of money and stuff to put in it. So by being able to go ahead and make that kind of change in the environment, and now you're doing things with the online flow and all that, did you anticipate any of that when you made the move, or God just kind of like, you just kept taking every way that you could contribute, and God just kind of used it?
I'd say so. More of that's a good question too, though. But it was more of a willing to help create for the office side would be help create an environment. How could I help in a way that would help overall?
Right.
I'd say that would be the way. Like, how can I add something that'll make it better? So that would be more of the stepping as far as like being the music guy in the office, or being a help here with, you know, the set and all that too. I'd say it's more of a how can I be a part, but also be a part as helping the overall product or overall environment, overall atmosphere.
So as you bring that up, I just can't help but pick up on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because what you just said is an answer that most people don't give. Okay, most people, and we got to check ourselves as we think about this. Let's face it, isn't it true that most people are thinking primarily, how can I help myself? How can I make the best impact for me? Where you took it, and it's kind of the attitude that we find in Scripture, where God says, hey, if you just seek first my work, my kingdom, all the things for you, I'll add them. I'll provide them. But I just want you to seek that first. So your first concern was kind of like, okay, I have some things to contribute. How can I just make it better for everything, right?
Yeah. That's how I am. Like, okay, I'm here. I'll probably be here for a little while. Like, how can I just make it cool, or not cool, but like make it a way where everyone can have a better experience, I guess.
Right. So if there were more people, I think a lot of us would agree, and I think we can learn from this, is there were more people that thought that way, how much better would so many things be, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're going to follow this along. I'm going to look at my next question that I had for you. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing, including this podcast, it's not, you know, people take for granted. I definitely don't take for granted. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
You know, like getting all this stuff done. We you know, had to research this up. We had to go down, had to get it, had to put it together. We didn't have a crew come in here and put it together. So it's a lot of work. So, but you enjoy it?
Yes.
So when you enjoy what you're doing, even though it's work, does it feel like work?
No. It makes, I guess, looking from outside in, it definitely won't look easy, but it definitely helped being to be around the environment of what I grew up with. It's easier to do, and it's definitely fun because, like I said, back in my home island, we never had much resources for me to do this stuff.
Right.
So a person that was very influential, his name is Percy Sanchez. He owns a company, an entertainment company, so that's where I kind of had the experience as far as like stage design, stage production, music, sound production, and all that stuff. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you were able to definitely kind of be taught and then eventually learn how to do this. So some of the things that he does, for instance, on a regular basis, like in a typical church service, you'll be playing the drums. At the same time, on the side, you'll have like an iPad, and you'll be controlling the video feed while playing the drums. So we're not talking in between songs. We're talking while playing the drums. You'll be monitoring sometimes and getting a message that the online feed either is working or is not working, has to be changed. Sometimes there's a lyric issue of what's being sent over across. And this is all being done at the same time. Now, I'm not a multitasker. I'm terrible at multitasking. So Do you think God's just given you a special ability? I mean, at one point, I saw him playing a beatbox and a keyboard, a cajon and a keyboard at the same time during a live song. How do you do that? Is it just, I mean...
Oh, God. Yeah, like I said, a lot of this stuff looks hard from the inside, but like it's an enjoyment thing. Like I want to like level it up. Like what can I do to add? What can I do to make it better? You know.
So the old thing, you know, the one man band guy who's got like all this different stuff going at once. Are you like trying to figure out ways to add things? Because sometimes we'll be saying, oh yeah, this sound is a little. How many things can you do at once?
Yeah, true.
Right. So pretty awesome. So I think let's tie into what you said there. When you're doing something that's a God-given ability that fit, I think in one of the other podcasts a couple weeks ago, our guest, Pastor Abel Galvan, mentioned about shape in ministry. Yeah. Doing what you were made for. When we're doing things that we were made for that fit those abilities, those gifts that God gave us, it just doesn't seem like work, right? Even though it's work, it doesn't seem like a job, I guess you could say. Would you agree?
Wait, what was you saying?
It doesn't seem like a job.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, when you're doing what you like doing. All right, so let's move on here. So let's talk future. So any dreams or something? I mean, I know you're working on some stuff personally as well. Dreams, vision, with the talents and the gifts and abilities that you're already developing, continuing to explore. Are there any big things that are in your head? Even, and hold nothing back, it may even sound crazy. This is called Audacious Faith. Yep. So any huge things out there, I just want you to throw them out there, not only so we know to pray about them, but who knows, there might be people listening that maybe are a part of that picture. Yeah. So anything come to mind?
More like what could be a smaller scale would be expanding the church.
Okay.
You know, growing the church as far as getting more people here, you know, in person, online. Personally would be more working, performing on bigger stages or all that stuff. But sometimes we can't plan too much because, you know, God already has the plan for us. And we can do so much as far as, you know, pinpointing every little thing. But at the end of the day, God is the one who's controlling that. So if I'm working towards what I love and what he gave or what opportunities he brought in, then, you know, how can I plan it exactly? But, you know, we'll just see how that works out.
So you were working on stages and you were doing some shows and different things like that. So obviously I would think that the COVID-19 pandemic thing changed that to a degree. So that's cut that down probably from some of what was going on before. Yeah.
We had to shift. Like, one thing that I did a lot was singing for people online. Okay. That kind of brought back the music in me because I never really did much music. I mean, other than playing the drums for church, but I would say bringing back another love side of music would be singing. Okay. And just experimenting with singing online.
So you do. So you've done some stuff because of, you're mentioning a shift. Yeah. All right. So for example, even some of the stuff you do for a church service, using certain programs that we use and all that, we weren't doing that before that. And shifting and not being able to do certain other things managed to give you attention, obviously, an opportunity to learn some other things, which are going to all be used together. Yeah. And then you mentioned singing online too, so that's something that you weren't really doing.
Nope, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
So you're mentioning something very key here. Yeah. Because a lot of people, when things shift, they don't shift. You know, it's just kind of like, this is what I know, and now I can't do it, so I guess I'm just going to sit here. Yeah. You kind of just rolled with the punches. Yeah. And what would you say to someone who is not flexible like that? You know, they're kind of just locked in, and then it just throws them for a loop. Why does that not happen to you?
I mean, it's definitely not an easy thing to get out of, because before quarantine, before COVID, everyone already had their set schedules, their set routines, and this happened. Now we're all at home.
Right.
But I just thought of like things of doing something that'll spark inspiration or help me not be stagnant would be the word, not being stagnant. And it's overall it's definitely not easy to kind of like shift and do something different or
Right.
doing that.
So that out of the box thinking, because some of the listeners that we have right now have been stuck for the last year and a half. I mean, a lot of the things that they were doing, a lot of the stuff that they like to do, even some of the industries that some people have worked in are now drastically changed. Some stuff has gone more into online. Some of the ways that people shop, some of the ways that people did things.
Yeah.
Even churches are struggling because so many people shifted or they're afraid to come out, got out of the habit of coming out, and it's taking new creative ways to reach people with the gospel. So how much time do you think you spend on a regular basis just like searching and exploring new stuff? I know you look online a lot, just always kind of looking things up.
I mean, it depends on what I'm looking for. Not much, but sometimes a lot. We could go back with researching the stuff for, the stage settings. That took quite a little while to kind of search up stores and what we needed that would fit this place, the stage, measurements, and all that stuff. So it could take hours. It could even take days. I guess it really depends on what you're focused on in that moment or that time being.
Right. So how much time did it take? A lot of people don't realize. So they see lights, for instance, that are up here, and there's lights behind, in front of us that you can't see. And I think the amazing thing to me is that it's not just a matter of hanging lights.
No.
I mean, these things talk to each other, like
Yes.
in a figurative way, right? I mean, there's a program, and they're all linked, and they respond. And I mean, how hard was it to figure that stuff out? You had not done that, right?
Previously, I mean, I have done it, but not in the in-depth as I'm doing it recently.
Okay.
So I did have to learn even more in-depth of how things work, because there's a lot of numbers that comes with programming and all that.
Right. And so you had done it like controlling it, but had you actually set it up from scratch?
No, not how I'm doing it now, no.
Right. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. You turn it on, like if you come in a quiet morning and you turn it on, it's almost like these things come to life.
Yeah.
It's really kind of,
It's amazing.
it's almost like being in a Star Wars type of situation, and you got like Android lights or something that are just making noises and doing all kinds of weird things. So pretty incredible. So the dreams of vision. So I mentioned in the opening that you're the type of person that makes everyone around them a little bit better. You've already alluded to that a little bit. And is that something that you do consciously, or it just seems to be what happens?
I think it's both of 50-50, kind of both. Because you never know what someone's going through, externally. Like, I do it for myself because I enjoy it, but I also try to find ways to make it easier for somebody to go through or to. I mean, that's a very good question too, though. Like,
Well, because some people, and let me explore this just a little bit further.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, it's taught by many people in leadership and in different aspects that one of the best ways to make an impact in the world is to not go out trying to figure out how to make your life better today, but how to add value to someone else.
Yeah.
All right? So there are people that teach that every day, okay, that's my goal.
Yeah.
I'm just going to find a way to add value to someone else. So how much time do you think you focus that way, or it's just naturally who you are?
I think it's just natural. Like, God-given gift is, natural.
So kind of
there's
gift,
no explanation.
Kind of a gift of serving,
Yeah.
gift of helps, things like that. Because people do have various
Not trying
gifts.
to boast or anything like.
Of course not. and these questions that I'm asking him, he's not one to, really say, oh, I'm doing this and everything. So I'm
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
kind of putting you on the spot just by asking the questions that I'm asking. So, but that's something that you do. I mean, even in sports, for example, in sports, they talk about teammates.
Yes.
And there are those teammates that, well, we'll name some names. You take someone like, some people aren't going to like this. All right, you take someone like a LeBron James. All right? And when people look at someone like a LeBron James, one of the knocks on LeBron James, if you're a LeBron fan, you're not going to like what I have to say, is that it's all about LeBron. Okay? And when he talks about making his teammates better and building them up, which he is very capable of doing, and he does do well at sometimes, you don't feel that comes naturally to him. What comes naturally to him is more about it's all about LeBron. He's that type of an athlete. Okay? Where there's others that are just known to be great teammates. They just make everyone better around them. And it's often a player that does not get necessarily all the front page attention.
Yeah.
But they're always in the right place. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They manage to set up their teammates for success. They're great in the locker room.
Makes sense,
all
yeah.
those type of things, right? Okay, so I would say anyways that as far as teams are concerned or working whatever, that's more your type of personality.
Ah.
The person that just kind of plays that, the key role. One of the things about, I got to ask you this, some of the stuff I didn't mention to you ahead of time, because we do kind of discuss a little outline of which way we will go, but then questions come as we come. You're usually fairly cheerful and positive.
Yeah.
All right. So some people that know you probably have this question. Are there times when you're not? Do you struggle with that at all?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Yeah, okay.
Who doesn't?
I mean, do you get mad often? Or not really?
It happens, It definitely happens. We're not perfect. If you read the Bible, I wouldn't think Jesus was always happy.
Oh, I'm
100%
sure.
of the time.
He was very sad at times.
Yeah.
He wept.
Yes.
At
Yeah.
times.
So I know there's other people who struggle with not being positive or happy, or people who struggle. There's struggles within us, and I just figured my actions could affect other people, so I'll just be happy, or be in a cheerful state if I'm around people.
Absolutely. Okay, so in addition to all the things that you do here, that you do with the podcast, which, by the way, I'm totally grateful for, and let me just do a little plug real quick. If you have not subscribed to the podcast on the YouTube channel, please subscribe. Just click subscribe. All that's going to do is every time a new one comes out, what's going to end up happening is you're going to get a notification, so you're not going to miss any episodes. And the more subscriptions we get, the better it looks for the podcast. So we definitely would appreciate you doing that. But in addition to that, I know you're doing some things that you're working on. Mm-hmm. You have some projects. You have some things that you're. Why don't you kind of fill us in on some of those things that people could check out and see what you're doing?
For sure, yeah. As I was mentioning, maybe about like 5-10 minutes ago, how I was singing for people online, the quarantine. I think, everyone has their own store or timing, but it was a very, I think, blessing for me to be in the quarantine. And it was very unfortunate for a handful of people, but I had to find a way to get myself moving, because staying at home for a long time is kind of hard. Definitely. But that was a way for me to bring back my love for music, singing, playing the guitar, and that kind of catapulted me to finally write actual music, write actual songs. So that's what my projects are, my continuous projects, is putting out original music.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's something you liked, but you didn't have a whole lot of time to do before, right?
Because that's what I grew up with, was through the church from my hometown. I was playing the drums, I was playing the bass, the guitar, and it kind of started around middle school, where I had my love for music. But as I grew up, it kind of fizzled away.
Sure.
Because bills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing that. So explain how you're doing the music online. Is it something you're doing specifically for people, or you're just creating it and throwing it out there?
There's this website where you go on and you just talk to random people, and that was kind of the way, or even like Instagram lives or Facebook lives.
Okay.
Just playing music online.
So people can follow you
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Like, what's your handles online for when they want to follow you?
It'll be in the description.
There you go. So look in the description.
Yeah.
He puts it there, so it'll be there. And connect and follow him online. You doing any events since you doing
At the
event
moment,
recently?
no. I just try to get things as I go through this, the journey. Like,
Right. So you have plans to write more.
of course, yeah. Still writing, of course.
And so this gave you the opportunity because of the pandemic and having to shift, freed up some time, in many cases for people too much time. So I think that what you're saying, and it's key for a lot of people because I've been hearing so much lately on how so many have struggled with anxiety because of the situation, depression, sadness. And I believe mostly where that comes in is not being able to find purpose, not being able to find any way to use an outlet to have some meaning for what we're getting up for in the morning, how we're having some type of positive impact in the world. So this is an outlet that allows you to do that, right?
I mean, there were days where I'm like, oh man, it's another day at home. Like, what am I gonna do? We're still home, or like what's gonna happen? So it wasn't always 100% perfect every day. Yeah,
Sure.
I did definitely had a little little struggle moments or little down moments during that time too.
So you were able then, during those down moments, that in order to turn it around, you were able to then take what seemed to be a bad thing and turn it into an opportunity that you wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
And we want to challenge so many of you out there that find that opportunity. Your greatest struggles right now can be your greatest opportunities. There's now time to do some things that you wouldn't have had opportunity. There's always a reason for everything. You got to find your purpose. You got to find the meaning. And that's usually found in a way that you can bless others, which is exactly what you're doing in this way, right?
So through the music, it definitely outreach. Through this side of music, it kind of gave a new alley to reach more people because there's another app that I've used called TikTok, and I've reached, I've grew over the thousands. And I'm not up there as far as followers, but then it's a good amount where I brought another set of influence to other people who can do more music, who influence to get out of their shell and express themselves in a way.
Right.
I had sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I had this person that follows me, and they're like, "Oh, thanks to you, I was able to do this song that I've always wanted to do." So that kind of felt pretty cool, like an influence to somebody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, and one of the things we can do over social media is we can be influencers. And everyone's influencing in some way over social media. A lot of people knock social media, including TikTok, saying it's a bunch of nonsense, so much negative stuff out there. And that's true. But what can be used poorly, it's not the media itself, it's the content. And so, some things can be used poorly, but that same avenue can be used for such positive good and to be able to influence people in great ways. Just like what we're trying to do by doing this online right now is to have a connection with people that maybe are out there that we don't even know and would have that opportunity. So great opportunity. The sky's the limit, isn't it? When you think about it?
Way past the sky.
Yeah, there's really no limitation.
No.
We just keep taking the opportunities that God gives us with the moments and talents that we have. So kind of tying that in as we get towards the end of this, there are people out there right now who have gifts, talents, abilities that God has given them. We believe that everyone has been created that way. Sometimes, I don't know if you ever met a person when you go, well, what are you good at? And they say nothing. I mean, do you believe that's true? Is there anyone that's good at nothing?
I don't think I've met somebody who was good at nothing.
Exactly, right? I mean, everybody has something that they're good at, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever that is for you, and maybe you're kind of stuck right now, and they're not having an outlet. They're not having a way to use that, which is then giving them no real meaning for living, really, as far as on the day-to-day.
Yeah.
For someone who's not currently using their gifts and serving, what would you say to them? Are they, how are they missing out? And how would you encourage them to find a way, even if it seems very simple at first, to start doing that?
It's definitely, I guess, to start from nothing is a little difficult. But it takes that one little step of doing something. Like, if you were scared to post a video of you singing or post a video of you doing something, that could be scary of just posting. Like, all you got to do is just do it and post it. It sounds easy at my end because I've done hundreds of videos, but like to do one could be scary. It is scary because you never know. Like the world out there is judgmental, or a lot of people has their own opinions. But if at the end of the day that makes you happy, I guess internally or in your heart, then why not? Do it.
So everyone has something unique to share, right? And has some value to add. And one of the things I was taught recently, and maybe you would agree with this, is that when we start looking at that whole world out there to influence, we think to ourselves, we have something called imposter syndrome. It's like, well, who am I that anyone would want to get any value from what I do? So because of that, we're thinking, I fear the rejection, that some people won't respond to it, or not everyone's going to love it. I'm not going to have millions of hits, and I'm not going to have millions of followers, so I'm just not going to do it.
I've definitely been hearing that a lot, though. Or I've been seeing it on, posts and all that, the imposter syndrome.
Right.
And I think sometimes hearing it a lot kind of, gives me a little effect, why am I doing this? I still get it. I'm like, why am I still doing this? Or Well,
the reality is, none of us have 1 million followers at this point, right?
Not yet.
Not yet, exactly. But the thing is, it's possible, if we think about it this way, that our audience is not 2 million people. Maybe there's just that niche of those people, right? And if that ends up only being 300, 400, 500, 1,000 people, that's still 500 to 1,000 people that you have a tremendous, there's 6.5 billion people on the planet. So I'm pretty sure that over the course of time, there might be 500 to 1,000 people that need what you have, right? That need your experience, that can relate to you.
Yeah.
And so I think you would agree with me, right? To encourage people, hey, don't be hearing those voices that say you're not enough. Who are you to think that anyone would pay attention? You have something that somebody needs.
Yeah.
And it needs to be shared, right?
Yeah. There's this quote that I've been kind of taking over the years is it doesn't matter if it's one person in the audience or 100 people, you should still give your all as if there is 100 to 1,000 plus people. So.
That's a hard thing to do. Everyone wants a big crowd, right? Yeah. And when all of a sudden there's 10 people, we have to remember that those 10 people need you.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're valuable too, right? So I hope that you've been blessed. I really appreciate you joining and getting out from behind the camera into a spot that maybe is not quite as comfortable. Yeah. But I encourage you, follow in the description. You'll be very encouraged by a lot of the things that GJ puts out. And he's a really talented and amazing guy. And so, and we want to see some of the things that God has put in your life that you have to offer as well. If we can help in any way, I know he's the type of person that if you feel he could help you or give advice in any way, contact him on social media. He'll be more than happy to get back to you. He's always willing to help. Yes. So God bless each one of you. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Audacious Faith Podcast.